Welcome in, everybody. It's Tuesday. It is August 5th, and it was a doozy of a day for many reasons here in the Charlotte area in particular. Abnormally cool. We'll talk a lot about that, but we got to get to the biggest impact of the entire day here, and that was the flash flooding we had pretty much for the first half of the day. We had flood warnings for several counties, including Mecklenburg, parts of York County, and Stanley County. A lot of those warnings were set to expire at 4:15 to 4:45. But what happened was the water went down just as quickly. But this is a picture and video of some of the flooding that we had today. We had 4 to 5 inches of rain in about a 6-hour time period. Really kind of kicked off at 6 a.m. this morning and ramped up rapidly. And by mid to late morning, we knew we were starting to have some issues because a lot of the creeks and streams, we have a very good monitoring system here in Mecklenburg County. The creeks started getting to bank full, in fact, flooding. We had, I think, one creek did crest at a record that was down in South Carolina. It was near a record down in the York County area. Several others got close, but we certainly had a lot of road flooding. Not a lot of structures, thank goodness. But as you see here, the greenways, which they're supposed to flood, some of them got out of their banks and got onto roads, and people got stuck. And we saw a lot of vehicles that were trapped in water, and a few rescues, though we didn't seem to be widespread. It just seemed to be isolated in nature where we saw some of those rescues. But let's talk about some of the rainfall that fell. We'll go to the radar here and show you things have calmed down. We still have light rain out there. I do not anticipate any flooding issues this evening and really for most of tonight, but I am a little wary of a little disturbance that looks like it's trying to move north from areas down in Georgia and South Carolina. I'll widen this out. This is a water vapor loop. I haven't shown the water vapor in a while because just haven't had a lot to show, but this little cluster of storms down in here, there's a little disturbance which looks like it's going to push north tonight. And with the amount of moisture we have in place, precipitable water, you hear us talk a lot about that, and the fact that we had an area saturated with rain today, I am a little concerned we could see some isolated flooding risk. So notice for the next several hours, really through about 2, 3 in the morning, no issues at all. But once again, almost the same time frame, 5, 6, 7 o'clock tomorrow morning, we could see another wave of scattered showers and downpours. And if we see any thunderstorms in there, which would enhance our rainfall amounts, then we could see some issues. And just to give you an idea, tonight we'll be in the 60s, 70% chance of rain. Tomorrow, only low 70s, so definitely a cool day, just not as cool as we saw today. And this was the flood risk today. We actually got upgraded overnight, which was kind of one of those things that snuck up on us. We knew we see rain today. If you told me we were going to see 2 to 3 inches of rain over the entire day, it's kind of what I expected, right? That's kind of what we told you yesterday. But what happened was we got 4 to 5 inches of rain in an area that happened in about half that time. So that caused flooding issues. And it was a very narrow corridor. I want to go back to the radar here, and I'll show you the area we're talking about from York County up into Mecklenburg County. And this doesn't even do justice to it because there was a lot more rain in there than even shown here. I'm going to zoom in a little bit closer to Mecklenburg County. These are rainfall estimates. So just to give you a little peel back the curtain here, the radar can estimate rainfall, but sometimes it's not super accurate depending on the radar. The radar has huge limitations. It doesn't see all things. And so some of the totals were actually lower than the gauges. The gauges actually are a much better sign. And you could see the totals here. That Rock Hill total, 4.33. That is a one-day record for them, the most they've seen in a single calendar day. 2.5 inches for Charlotte. We've seen some big rainfall days. That's pretty big. But I was actually kind of shocked. That's our biggest of the year so far. I would have thought we would have had a thunderstorm at some point this summer, early in the spring, that dumped more rain than that. But that's our biggest calendar day rainfall. Monroe, 2.9. Gastonia, 2.34. And Albemarle. That was kind of the corridor of rain. And here were some individual totals that were picked from the FINS gauges, which is Stormwater Services. Lily, our intern, you guys know her. She helped compile this list for us. And 5.13 in Collinswood Elementary School, Uptown around 4.4, Camp Thunderbird down near Lake Wiley. So you're looking at 4 or 5 inch amounts. Freedom Park, which was shut down because of flooding, Lake Wiley, McAlpine Creek, Matthews Elementary School, Hidden Valley, Irwin Creek, Thompson Road, 4.69, Old Providence. So these are pretty beefy totals, and it says 24 hours because that's technically what they are, but a lot of that fell in about a 6 to 7 hour time frame early this morning. And so because those areas already got 4 to 5 inches of rain, within 24 hours of this, if we see another round of heavy rain, we could see additional flooding. So Weather Prediction Center has kind of upgraded our area again to a medium risk, and I think it's around Charlotte East. So I don't think it'll be the exact same spot. I think this could end up being more our eastern counties, but it's close enough that I want to stay alert for tomorrow just in case, because it may take a third of the rain to cause additional flooding because of how saturated everything is. So tomorrow morning, 6 a.m. to 1 p.m., kind of the time frame I'm watching. Flood threat, heavy downpours, isolated in nature, just like today. Trust me, this will not be everybody getting flooding. Today was incredibly isolated. Even within Mecklenburg County, there were areas that had almost no issues, but then other areas that some of the worst flooding they'd ever seen. So just kind of shows you the isolated nature of this. So stay tuned for our updates. Good idea to have our app and watch our show here. So our Futurecast shows the light showers this evening. Again, no issues tonight until about 2 a.m. You start to notice almost kind of some pop-up storms developing in there, and that would be the concern. Not that we would see a big shield of rain again like we did this morning. If we get what we call convection, which is our technical term for thunderstorms, that would mean very heavy rainfall rates, which could end up falling over this corridor of I-77, and that would produce heavy rain. But notice it moves out fairly quickly tomorrow, and we start to dry out and actually see some much better weather for the afternoon, and possibly by Thursday the sun returns, which is something even my son said. He's like, he hasn't seen the sun forever. And that's been the weird thing about this setup the last couple of days. It's been incredibly cool. And speaking of that, let me show you the high and low temperature for the day first, because there's a lot of records here. So 69 was the high. The high temperature on August 5th was 69. The low was 65. That's not crazy. That's actually only 5 degrees below normal. The high, though, that's 21 degrees below normal. And why is that significant? Couple things. That's the coolest high temperature in the month of August, any date, since 2014 when it was 70 for a high. It's also for August 5th, which is today, the coolest high temperature ever recorded on August 5th in Charlotte. The previous record was 70, set way back in 1920. 1920, the last time. And oh, by the way, just fun stat. What do you guys think is the coolest high temperature we have ever seen in Charlotte in the month of August?
Coolest high temperature we've ever seen in 53.
Ooh, that's pretty low. I wouldn't have guessed that low. Lily? I think I told you, but you might.
I feel like I was honestly looking into this a little bit earlier. I think,
It's
what is
crazy.
it? 59?
It is 59.
Oh.
59. It's crazy. I would have never thought we had a day in the 50s. It had to be the last day of the month with like a really strong cold air wedge or some other, because that's really chilly.
Do you remember what day it was?
It's like in the 1890s. It's like way back. So it was way back then as well. So, and I'm guessing it was at the end of the month because that's usually when we get some of the first. If we're going to get an early season cold front, it's going to happen at the end, right before Labor Day. So yeah, that's it. Normally. I think I looked. There was only 24 days, or 24 years in history where we've had a high in the 60s or lower. So it's just kind of rare. So obviously rain is a big story this week. I'll quickly show you the 5-day rainfall forecast. Not much going on here locally, but when Tim comes on, we're going to talk about the potential of some tropical mischief maybe on the coast by the weekend. Our 7-day forecast, look at this, it's still below normal. Low 70s tomorrow. We do want you to stay alert for that potential for some flash flooding. And then big game on Friday, first preseason game for the Panthers. They're taking on the Cleveland Browns. A lot of hubbub about that. We'll have a lot of starters playing. Actually, it looks pretty nice there, maybe near 80 degrees with a few light showers. But, hey, the heat's coming back. We had this question yesterday. Are we done with the heat? Absolutely not. It is coming back next week. We'll be in the 90s. In fact, I was looking at the 8 to 14-day outlook, which we tend to look at sometimes to see long-term trends. And sure enough, I think most of the eastern half of the country has above normal temperatures coming back by the middle of the month. And mind you, our average high should start to trend down. So by then, I think it's 89. So we're going to see above normal temperatures. So we got a lot to talk about today. Cool days in August, flash flooding, tropical mischief. I think we'll have plenty to discuss. Tim is going to join me here in just a second. And there he is, the one and only Tim Buckley. Tim, how you doing this afternoon
Mischief.
And now this evening?
Yeah, I heard you talking about tropical mischief. Sounds like there's been enough mischief going on in Charlotte today on its own. Been thinking about you guys today.
Yeah, it was kind of crazy, Tim. I mean, full transparency, we did not anticipate this being a big flood risk. We knew it was going to be an all-day rain possibly, and as I mentioned in my forecast, I think if you'd have told me 2 to 3 inches fell over the entire day today, I wouldn't be shocked. But 4 to 5 inches fell in about 6 hours this morning. That was a shock. We did not really anticipate that, and it was a very localized area that got hit. Even in Mecklenburg County and Charlotte proper, there were parts of town that had no issues. It was really confined to the south side.
And it's always amazing to see, even if you've been in a drought like you guys kind of have been, and it's been dry, if you just get too much rain in too short of a period, it's always going to flood. And it doesn't matter how good the drainage is or anything like that. If it's too much water, it's just going to create problems, especially in big cities like Charlotte or any urbanized area. Some of these videos are wild, just to kind of see how quickly that water can come up, and always educational. No matter where you're watching from or where you live, it's always good to know what parts of your community tend to flood first.
Yes.
Because in these heavy rain situations, those are kind of the spots you want to avoid.
Yeah, I think a lesson learned by a lot of drivers today was when you see water in the road, that's usually a lower dipping area of the road. There's usually a creek or stream in that little dip. So driving into those is always very dangerous because sometimes the road's not there. We've seen washouts, and one of our chief photographer caught that video right there of, which I don't know what I hate to shame people, but this person drove around the tow truck and a police car blocking the flooded road and drove into it and had to be flagged down by the police officer. So don't know what's going through someone's mind in that situation. This is a part of town too that floods all the time, North Tryon Street. But people always seem, this person learned their lesson. Look, they stopped, they probably saw our camera and put it in reverse and backed up. So they didn't want to be on TV driving into the water. But yeah, Tim, that's such a good point though. I think these are lessons no matter where you are, you can kind of learn from, hey, these things will sneak up on you too. We had the WIA goes off on our phone this morning because it was a considerable tag because of the number of cars that were being stuck in the water, which I think is a good thing because it alerted a lot of people. But you've dealt with a lot of this flooding back in July. We're dealing with this now. And let's look forward because I think tomorrow, and I saw you post something about this, and I felt the same way. Tomorrow morning, there's a sneaky little impulse coming up that might kick off some heavy downpours again.
It's shown up on a couple models, and something of a concern that I would have for our area up here in the Piedmont, but anywhere across central North Carolina, you want to watch that early morning time frame. I think probably between about 5 a.m. and 10 a.m. or so. That's kind of what we've been highlighting. Not a guarantee that there will be flooding out of this, but that's when, if you could see some heavy rainfall, that's when it could happen. And I've actually used an earlier run of our model to show what it was showing. Just to give you that idea that it's possible that if you want to be alert out there tomorrow, I think it's that morning commute, just to be on the safe side. Make sure you don't go out before checking the weather. Find your trusted source. We'd tell you to watch our morning show and see what they're saying, see what the radar's showing, because that rain, like it happened in Charlotte today, it could add up pretty quickly. And that's, I think, why they put that level 2 risk out there for flooding for tomorrow. And probably a good call. It's hard to say which county will get it, but probably one of those counties across central North Carolina will have some issues.
Yeah, I fully believe what you're saying, and I agree completely that somebody is probably going to get a sneaky little flash flood risk tomorrow. And now that we've had the flooding this morning, I think that's why I'm a little more concerned here, because if it just clips us, even if we get a third or half of the rain, it takes less rain now to cause an issue because everything's saturated, and we could see some rapid runoff. And the morning time frame is always pretty brutal around here. I don't know what it's like in the Triad, but when it rains during the commute, it might as well be snow. It's like it just is complete chaos.
Yeah. It's the worst time of day to have that thing going on, and we'd like to avoid it if we can. It also should probably be another day with close to record temperatures.
Okay, I'm curious. I want to see your stats, because we were pulling our stats. So show off your stats. What were some of the things you had today that happened for cool weather?
So, ironically, pretty similar. So, similar to Charlotte. I'll back one slide up here. So, for us, we had a high of 69. That's our coolest for today's date. The record, old one, was 70. Happened to be back in 1912. But around here, our records only start back in 1903. So about 120 years, give or take. We've had 30 days all time in the 60s for the month of August. So that works out to be about one every 4 years. It just so happens, though, we haven't had one in 11 years. So it's been a little while. And the all-timer for us, I don't know how this happened, we had a high of 60 in 1918, close to Labor Day.
And how did we had a 59? I'm like, so I'm looking at our stats. And back in 1891, we had a high of 59. It had to be late in the month too. We were just talking about that. That 59 in August, it had to be an early season cold front and wedge set up at the end of the month somewhere.
Dang.
But yeah, it's pretty wild. For us, we were very similar. 69 today. That's our coolest high in August since 2014. And it was an all-time cold or high temperature, I should say, for us. The old record was 70. But yeah, I look back too, and so the 60s for us, very similar to you guys. I think we've I counted. Let's see, 21, 2, 3. So 23 times in our history we've had a high in the 60s in August. So yeah, this is almost the polar opposite, if you will, of the crazy heat we had. We've actually done a complete 180 with some of the coolest August weather. And typically when you think of cool August weather, you're thinking, oh, you're going to get a record low. Dry air moves in. You're going to radiate down in the morning. I never thought we'd be talking about all these cool afternoon highs.
And just like we said yesterday, I mentioned this during our newscast today, it's not that we haven't seen this before, but it's really odd to see how long it's lasting.
Yeah.
We've already had several days of it, and it's still going. I mean, I still have us below 80 through the weekend, and that's just really weird. One more stat about the temperatures, and this is a casual one. I didn't check every station in the country, but for us in the Carolinas, anywhere from Charlotte to Greensboro to Raleigh or something, you were about the coolest area in the eastern United States today, or the whole United States today at a normal elevation outside of the Pacific coast from Northern California to Oregon to Washington, where the water temperature is 55. So weird
That's
stuff,
wild. Rare
rare air, strange.
Yeah, you got to love cold air damming. It's We talked about that today. Brittany did a great weather IQ on it, which we ran in our show, and it really is. It's one of those things that is so unique to the Carolinas, and it makes the weather here frustrating to forecast, but also incredibly interesting to talk about as well. So, Tim, we got to get into the tropics because we have pretty active setup out there right now. Dexter, no big issue. We've got this big tropical wave that's coming off the coast of Africa. It's got a long ways to go, but this little guy next to the coast here, there's some signs that we're going to see something develop there, maybe a weak tropical or non-tropical low. The models aren't really keen on strength here, but they are keen on developing something with some moisture-packed low-pressure system. How close are you concerned about the rain getting to you guys? I think it's going to be kind of east of 95, but are you worried anything gets spun back your way?
I'm not. Well, I'll put it this way. Considering what we have today and what we have tomorrow, I have some concern that I don't want it to be here. I'll put it that way because we don't want any extra on top of what's fallen. But as it looks right now, it does seem like you were saying to mostly be a coastal issue. And, a lot of times with these things, if it's staying over the ocean, over the water, we can usually be pretty sure of it being an I-95 East situation. Yeah. And that probably is the case. But even a couple days away, we got to stay in probablys and most likelies and not definitives because never say never until whether it forms or not is up for debate. But it seems like there is going to be low pressure out there. There are going to be some showers out of this. And it's not going to be good beach weather at minimum Thursday, Friday, and Saturday out at the coastal areas for sure.
Yeah, the Euro yesterday was a little more gung-ho with something forming and getting close, but today it's actually kind of peeled it further offshore. And as you mentioned, that's actually probably better news for us, but actually probably gives it a better chance at development because it's going to stay over the Gulf Stream. It looks very similar to kind of the setup Dexter had. It formed in a very similar spot. We had this stalled front, the wedge in place, and a little cluster or impulse, kind of what came through today or even tonight, moved offshore and got over those warm waters and spun up and pushed northeast. But this should not be a shock to people because we are heading into August, and this is kind of where we watch this time of year. Homegrown systems happen quite a bit. It's not always storms that form off the coast of Africa. It's things that form in the Gulf or off the southeast or with an old front or thunderstorm complex. So this actually could be something that we see, and it's a good refresher that, hey, we're getting into the peak of hurricane season, so maybe we need to start paying attention. It will be something I'll be watching, I think, going into the weekend for folks going to the beach because I think you mentioned this yesterday, a lot of last-minute, vacations before school starts. South Carolina's already in school. North Carolina schools will start going back the next couple of days, but that'll be something to keep an eye on by the end of the week.
And don't be shocked, if you are planning to go out there, these are the systems that can sneak up on people because they're already 200 miles offshore. Don't be shocked if you get the headline, tropical storm has formed off the Carolina coast. Even then, I wouldn't cancel. You probably aren't going to be in danger. Check the forecast, but check with us. But I really don't think it would be a type of thing where you can't go. It's just, it's really going to rain for a couple of days out here, and then it'll get out of here.
Yeah, so long term, we got this question yesterday. And by the way, we'd love to get questions. Tim and I love answering these, especially because you might have a question or a comment that we haven't thought of. You can text those to us, 704-329-3600. Weather, science, climate, space, general science. If we know the answer, we'll try to figure it out. But we'd love to get that. We got a question yesterday, Tim, and I alluded to it in my forecast. Are we done with the heat? We both kind of answered the same, but thinking long term, like going into the rest of August, what are your thoughts on the rest of the month? Are we going to see another heat wave, or are we just getting back to normal heat? I mean, we're starting to see those trends in the long range that maybe things are going to get toasty again.
Yeah, I mean, the answer is the same as yesterday. Definitely not done with the heat. Like, there will still be more 90-degree days this year. But as far as it looks to me, Brad, it kind of seems, just kind of going back to normal.
Yeah.
It doesn't seem anything extra compared to normal or less than that. But it would kind of shock me if we had any sort of a heat wave that we just went through. Again, that would probably be a little bit of a surprise. But remember, not just August that we deal with heat. We deal with heat in September. Some years we've dealt with 95-degree weather in October for a couple of days too. So the path is long to get rid of the heat concerns typically. What do you think?
Yeah, I typically, I like to get to mid-September before I'm like, okay, we're kind of done with the real big heat. I agree with you, though. The thing we look at in meteorology, obviously, are these ridges, these heat domes. And looking at the pattern, there's no giant heat dome that camps out over us and squashes us. And one of the things I think that helps is the rainfall we got this week. The fact that we don't have dry ground and dry, arid kind of setup. I think the drought for us will be wiped out from the rainfall this week. I'm always worried when the ground is really dry because that can sometimes beef up and kind of make these ridges a little bit stronger. Just to go back to the tropical system briefly, I saw you bring it up briefly here, James. One of the products we love to look at here is obviously ensemble forecasting, and this is the latest Euro ensemble showing that system on the coast. And yesterday, the probabilities of a tropical depression were higher, and they were kind of shifting it into eastern North Carolina. If you look today, they're lower, and it's offshore more. So I think that's a good sign. I'm going to knock on fake wood here. We're not going to see that thing come inland at all. And there's some time. But also notice there's a little uptick in the eastern Gulf down there, which honestly for us in the Western Carolinas, I watch down there a lot more for development than I do on the coast. Not that I'm worried about our coastal residents, but for Western Carolina residents, the storms that get us the worst come up from the eastern Gulf into the Panhandle.
Yeah, it's true. You have a couple different types of systems. The ones that kind of curve away and skirt the coast, they don't do anything for us inland. And the ones that come at you real fast from the Gulf. And then the rarest ones are the ones that come at you directly from the Atlantic. We don't see that angle very often around here. If you do, it's bad, but we just don't get it as often as you do that one out of the Gulf.
Oh, that's the worst. So let's do a little round table here. I got James and Lily with us. James, you were talking earlier about flight delays. We had a bunch of issues the last couple of days. What are we looking at? We had a diversion out of Savannah because the big storm's down there.
We did, and we can actually take this live DOT camera near Walterboro in South Carolina, a little ways north of Savannah, but it shows you where the storms currently are.
Wow.
And there's some lightning right there. And if I go out to your radar, Brad, this is the storm system that is moving north and east towards Charleston. And as it was over Savannah, we did have a Savannah-bound flight that could not land and has instead diverted to Charlotte. So we'd like to welcome the passengers of American Airlines Flight 2394 to the Queen City.
And no offense to Savannah, it's always better to get diverted to a larger airport. There's more options and things to do. Yeah. The worst is when the people coming to Charlotte get diverted to like Columbia, and there's nothing there, and the place like shuts down at 10 o'clock. I had a friend who got diverted to Columbia coming back from the Bahamas, and because it was an international flight, they couldn't get off the plane. There's no customs in Columbia. So they had to stay on the plane for hours until they could leave. So it could be brutal. And this time of year, Tim, traveling is always an adventure in the summertime with thunderstorms. We talked a lot about this. But look at your radar. We're looking at your radar, and that is the one part of the Carolinas that we've seen a lot of lightning and a lot of severe weather with that little cluster. That's actually the little disturbance, I believe, Tim, that's going to come north tonight. That could be the thing that initializes some of our overnight storms.
Yeah, I think that's what we want to watch for. We're in a nice little break right now. It's probably pretty decent to do anything you like to do this evening, but anything after about 3, 4 a.m. is kind of, up for debate, because once you get that system to kind of come up here, it could touch off some of that heavier rain, and it just moves as a cluster. It's like we talked about with those big cluster strikes of lightning and setting world records in the Midwest. You can have a cluster of storms that move, and that could be what we have, and it wouldn't even shock me if there's some elevated thunder up here. That might be pretty loud.
I think that is something I'm going to keep an eye on tonight. We may actually hear some thunder. So let's go to Lily. We're running out of time. Any questions, comments from viewers?
Just one from at the moment. But the storms in our area currently, they're causing a big flood risk right now. Are they slow moving, or do you think they're part of a bigger system that's probably approaching us soon?
Well, to answer that question, I think they're pretty much done. They're out of here. But this is all kind of part of the wedge. A lot of these storms have been enhanced, and the rainfall, at least for us, was enhanced because it got lifted over the cool air, and it squeezed out even more moisture. So That's kind of a weird answer. It's kind of yes, no, because it is part of the overall system. But probably the next wave is that storm now near Savannah that we got to watch overnight. So, yeah, Tim, I'm with you. I think unlike this morning, I think if we get rain, there might be some elevated thunderstorms tonight.
Yeah, don't be shocked. Get the dog a thunder coat, if you will.
Yes. Yeah. All right. We'll see you tomorrow. Take care.